Coming up on the show tonight, we open the archives as we look into some of the horrifying, most creepiest horror stories out there. And then we're going to take a very deep dive in the archives and go back almost 200 years ago and look at the Victorian era and some stories and some mesmerizing history on the Victorian era. And then we're going to look into what is a Dybbuk box and some stories behind the Dybbuk box and what the Dybbuk box really does. And then we're gonna dive back into some more past history as we travel to the 1600s in our archives tonight as we look at the Salem Witch Trials and the mesmerizing history behind all of that. I hope you guys are ready for tonight's show. It's fixing to be a good one. It's December 20th, 2025, and the Haunted Archives is coming at you right now. Welcome, guys. Welcome back to another episode. Tonight is fixing to be one of the best yet. We have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about tonight as we get ready for Christmas coming up here in just about 5 days. It's coming, and it's coming fast. So tonight is going to be a memorable show as we look into some very, very mesmerizing history on our past. The archives tonight is coming alive full force right now. As we open the archives, we're going to take a look into some of the creepiest short horror stories that I find. Starting off with number one, the voice in the trees. Everyone in Rustwood knew the rule. If you hear your name called from the woods at night, do not answer. Eli learned that a little too late. Camping alone near the tree line, he woke to a familiar voice, which was his mother's, soft, worried, calling him by his childhood nickname. He whispered, sitting up. The voice stopped. Then it came again, but closer. But Eli's mother had been dead for 6 years. From the darkness, something stepped forward. It wore her face, wrong eyes too wide, mouth smiling without the warmth. When Eli tried to scream, the thing whispered, "I almost." Perfect. The next morning, searchers found Eli's tent empty, no footprints leaving, but only 2 sets going in. Number 2, the last live stream. Tanner loved pushing limits. His final stream was titled Exploring the Most Haunted House Live, No Cuts. And the chat laughed as doors creaked and cold spots spiked. Then viewers noticed something behind Tanner, someone standing in the hallway, unmoving. "Tanner, who's that?" He turned. Nothing there. Minutes later, the figure appeared again, but closer. Its face blurred like it didn't belong on camera. The stream ended abruptly when Tanner screamed and the camera hit the floor. Police found the house empty. No Tanner, but the channel still goes live sometimes. The title never changes. The viewer count rises, and the figure looks directly into the camera. Number 3, don't look under the bed. When Lucy moved into her grandmother's house, she heard scratching at night, soft, slow, patient. Her grandmother's note warned her, lock your door, but never look under the bed. One night, Lucy dropped her phone. It slid underneath. Heart pounding, she knelt down. Something stared back. It looked like her, but twisted, skin stretched tight, eyes sunken, and a smile that was too wide. From behind her, Lucy heard her own voice whisper, don't worry, I'll sleep up here tonight. The neighbors say Lucy still lives there. They see her in the window sometimes, but the real Lucy, she's still under the bed. And that is the 3 horror stories. Now, they're quite terrifying. I will give that. They are just downright creepy. But now, we're going to turn our attention and dive very deep in the archives as we turn the time back to 1837 as we enter the Victorian era. The Victorian era from 1837 to 1901, an age obsessed with death. The Victorian era, named after Queen Victoria, was a time of rapid progress but also constant death. Disease, child mortality, industrial accidents, and poor medical knowledge meant death was everywhere. Victorians didn't hide from it. They studied it, photographed it, and tried to communicate with it. Spiritualism, talking to the dead. One of the most haunting aspects of the era was the rise of spiritualism, the belief that the living could communicate with the spirits. Séances became popular in middle and upper class homes. Mediums claimed to speak with ghosts through automatic writing, table tipping, spirit trumpets. Even respected figures like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle believed in it. After Prince Albert died in 1861, Queen Victoria herself reportedly tried to contact his spirit, fueling the movement even more. Victorian ghost sightings and haunted houses. Ghost stories weren't entertainment. They were often believed as facts. Common Victorian hauntings included black-clad women seen wandering hallways, phantom footsteps in empty homes, children's laughter in orphanage and workhouses, spirits tied to unfinished business or improper burials. Many old Victorian mansions today are considered some of the most haunted buildings in the world. Post-mortem photography, the dead that still stare. Victorians took photographs of the dead, especially children, because it was often the only photo a family would ever have. These photos would show bodies posed as if alive, sometimes include hidden stands holding corpse upright. Occasionally depict living relatives who are already deceased. To modernize, these images feel deeply unsettling, like the dead are refusing to go. Now, later on in the podcast, I am going to be talking about a story that includes this post-mortem photography. That's coming up here just shortly. But as we continue, as a result of this, safety coffins were invented with bells and air tubes. Graveyards reported bells ringing at night. Scratches were allegedly found inside the coffins. Whether true or exaggerated, the fear was real and horrifying. Asylums, workhouses, and silent suffering Victorian mental institutions were brutal. Patients restrained, drugged, or isolated. Illnesses like grief, hysteria, or depression was labeled as insanity. Many people believe the spirits of the abused still linger in abandoned Victorian hospitals where screams are heard, doors slam, shadow figures appear in long corridors. These locations remain paranormal hotspots today. The mourning culture. Victorians practiced elaborate mourning rituals. Homes covered in black cloth, mirrors turned toward the wall, widows wearing black for years or life. Some families even saved locks of hair, death masks, clothing from the deceased. Death was not the end, it was a presence that stayed. While the Victorian era still feels haunted, the Victorians lived with constant loss, deep belief in the supernatural, little separation between science and superstition. They didn't ask if ghosts existed, they asked why they were still here. Creepy Victorian belief was that many believed spirits were strongest at dusk, the moment between light and dark, which is why so many Victorian ghost stories begin at twilight. Now we're going to look into one dark Victorian era story, and then we'll get into the post-mortem story. So starting off with the morning room in Yorkshire, 1886. They locked the morning room from the outside. That was the custom when grief became unseemly. My husband's death had been inconvenient, slow, expensive, and witnessed by too many servants. When the physician declared my weeping unnatural and my sleeplessness dangerous, my brother-in-law ordered me confined to the east chamber until I learned how to behave like a widow. The room had one window. It was bricked shut. One mirror remained uncovered, nailed directly across from the bed so I might face myself. The first night I screamed until my throat bled. The second night I begged. By the third I listened. Because something else was breathing with me. Not loudly, not urgently. Just enough to be noticed when the house settled into silence. I dared not look at the mirror. Victorian houses were built to remember every joy, every cruelty soaked into the walls like blood into linen. I had seen servants go mad in lesser rooms. On the fifth night, the breathing spoke. "You are fading incorrectly," it whispered. I turned. My reflection sat on the bed beside me, not standing, not mimicking, but waiting. Her eyes were sunken and ringed and black. Her mourning dress stained at the throat where fingers had clawed too often. Her skin bore the gray softness of flesh long unkissed by warmth. "You are taking too long," she said gently. I tried to pray. The words tangled in my mouth like dead spiders. Each night after, she worsened. Her fingers lengthened, her joints bent backward when she moved, her mouth opened a little farther than a mouth should. Sometimes she stood behind me in the glass, hands resting on my shoulders, pressing, testing how solid I still was. On the ninth night she reached through. The glass did not break. Her hand emerged as if the mirror were water, cold enough to steal breath. She pressed her palm against my chest right over my heart. "You do not need it any more," she said. I felt it stutter. The servants heard nothing when my screams began again. On the morning of the 11th day they unlocked the door at last. They found the bed empty. The mirror reflected a woman seated calmly, hands folded, eyes lifted in perfect widow's composure. Behind her, pressed faintly into the glass from the inside, were fingerprints, scratching, begging. They covered the mirror at once, but sometimes when the house is quiet and morning settles heavily in the air, the cloth tightens, as though something behind it is pulling, learning how to breathe. Now this one is the post-mortem story. Still as she was, London, 1870. They told me the child would not move. That was important. I made my living photographing the dead memorial portraits. The families called them infants posed like sleepers, wives seated upright with iron braces hidden beneath their gowns. The illusion of life was a product I sold. Little Edith Harrow was 7 years old and drowned in the Thames. When her parents brought her to my studio, she was wrapped in lace and river silt, her skin pale as milk left too long in the cold. She must look peaceful, her mother whispered, as she was before. I positioned the body carefully, chin lifted, hands folded, glass eyes inserted to keep the lids from collapsing inward. The iron stand at her back held her upright. She was perfect, too perfect. When I adjusted the lens, I noticed the slightest blur in the glass, something like a tremor behind her pupils. I assumed it was fatigue. Long hours in poor light do strange things to the mind. I removed the lens cap. The exposure took nearly a full minute. During that minute, the child smiled. Not widely, not enough for the parents to see, just a small, knowing curl at the corner of her mouth. My hand shook. The camera remained steady. The plate developed beautifully crisp detail, flawless contrast. The parents wept with gratitude. But when I examined the photograph alone that evening, my breath caught. Behind the child's chair, faint but unmistakable, were wet footprints leading toward the camera. I destroyed the plate. The next commission arrived 2 days later. Another child, another river. This one moved her eyes, not in the room, in the photograph. Each plate revealed more. Fingers curling, shoulders shifting, mouths parting wider with every image. And in some, the children were closer to the lens that they had been posed. In others, their iron stands were gone entirely. They were standing, waiting. I began hearing the shutter click at night. My dark room stank of river water. On the 7th night, I woke to the sound of dripping. The studio was full of them. Children lined the walls, poses I had taught them, hands folded, heads tilted just so. Their glass eyes gleamed wetly in the candlelight. You promised we would stay, Edith said, stepping forward. Water pooled at her feet. I tried to run. The camera shutter clicked. When the police entered the studio 2 days later, they found no bodies, only photographs, dozens of them. Each plate showed a man seated upright in modern clothes, eyes glassy and unblinking, supported by an iron stand, and behind him, small wet footprints leading away. Now we're going to look into the history of what a Dybbuk box is. A Dybbuk box. What is a Dybbuk? The word Dybbuk comes from Jewish folklore, from the Hebrew Dybbuk, meaning to cling or to attach. A Dybbuk is believed to be a restless, malicious spirit, usually the soul of a deceased person who lived a sinful life and cannot move on. In traditional Jewish mysticism, Dybbuks possesses living people, cause illness, nightmares, rage, or strange behavior. They are expelled through ritual exorcisms led by rabbis. Importantly, Dybbuks were never originally said to be trapped in boxes. That idea came much later. The Dybbuk box, a modern legend, is born. The idea of a Dybbuk box as a cursed object began in 2003 when a man named Kevin Mannis listed a small wine cabinet for sale on eBay. According to Mannis, the box belonged to a Holocaust survivor. She claimed it housed a Dybbuk. She warned never to open it. After acquiring the box, Mannis reported nightmares of an older woman, shadow figures, illness, and misfortune. The box allegedly opening on its own. The eBay listing went viral and is considered the first documented Dybbuk box story. What was supposedly inside the box? Accounts vary, but items allegedly included old coins, a lock of hair, a dried rose, candlesticks, and Hebrew inscriptions. Some later owners claimed electrical malfunctions, violent mood changes, blackouts, unexplained smells like sulfur or decay. Each owner reportedly tried to get rid of the box and claimed that bad things followed them. Skepticism and controversy. Many historians and rabbis argue that Dybbuks do not inhabit objects in traditional lore. The Dybbuk box concept is not found in ancient Jewish text. Kevin Mannis later admitted the story was a piece of creative writing. Despite this, belief persisted. Why? Because once the story existed, people began experiencing things they couldn't explain or believe they did. Pop culture and lasting impact. The legend exploded after the box changed hands multiple times. It was displayed in paranormal museums. The 2012 horror film The Possession was loosely inspired by it. Today, Dybbuk boxes are sold online, featured in investigations, used in haunted object collections, a staple of paranormal YouTube and podcasts. Whether cursed or not, the belief itself has power, and that's what makes them terrifying. Why Dybbuk boxes still scare people, they combine real religious folklore, Holocaust trauma, cursed object fear, psychological suggestion. Even skeptics admit if you believe it's cursed, your mind will do the rest. Now, as we get ready to close the archives on tonight's show, we're going to dive into one more thing here as we open the archives from 1692 to 1693 as we look into the Salem Witch Trials. The Salem Witch Trials took place in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. They remain one of the darkest chapters in early American history, driven by fear, religion, superstition, and paranoia. Life in Puritan New England. Salem was a deeply Puritan community. The Puritans believed the devil was real and actively working on earth. Witchcraft was a capital crime. Any deviation from strict religious rules invited evil. Life was harsh, cold winters, disease, native conflicts, and political instability, all of which created a constant state of fear. How it all began. In early 1692, two young girls in Salem Village, Betty Paris, age 9, and Abigail Williams, age 11, began having violent fits, screaming, contorting their bodies, claiming invisible forces attacked them. Doctors could find no medical cause and declared they were under an evil hand. Soon, other girls joined in, accusing townspeople of tormenting them with witchcraft. The initial accused were Tituba, an enslaved woman from the Caribbean, Sarah Good, a poor beggar, Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who defied social norms. Tituba's confession, possibly coerced, fueled hysteria she described. black dogs, flying on poles, signing the devil's book. This confession confirmed the community's worst fears. Mass hysteria takes hold. Once accusations began, anyone could be accused. Evidence did not need to be physical. Spectral evidence claims that a spirit appeared in visions or dreams was accepted in court, however. Neighbors accused neighbors. Children accused adults. Long-standing grudges surfaced. The trials and executions. By mid-1692, over 200 people were accused. 30 were found guilty. 19 people were executed by hanging. One man, Giles Corey, was pressed to death with stones for refusing to plead. Several others died in jail awaiting trial. Those executed were not witches. They were ordinary people caught in a system ruled by fear. The end of the trials. Public opinion began to turn when accusations reached respected community members. The governor's own wife was accused. In late 1692, spectral evidence was banned. The special court was dissolved. By 1693, the trials officially ended. Aftermath and regret. In the years that followed, judges publicly apologized. Accusers admitted guilt. Families were compensated. In 1711, many convictions were overturned. In 1957 and later 2001, Massachusetts formally cleared the remaining accused. While the Salem Witch Trials still matter, they serve as a warning about mass hysteria, religious extremism, false accusations, fear overpowering logic. Salem wasn't about witches, it was about what happens when fear controls a society. Dark detail that still chills people. Many people believe the hysteria may have been influenced by ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic fungus on rye grain, psychological trauma, social and political stress, but no single explanation fully accounts for the terror that unfolded. And that is the witch trials. But that was the witch trials was a big part of American history because so many people got accused of being witchcraft and was wrongfully executed or put in jail for something that they didn't do. And it took them years to clear everybody from being accused. Like I said, it took them up to 2001 to clear everybody. That's a very, very long time. But I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's little podcast. I know it's short, but it's sweet and to the point. I hope you guys will find this interesting and maybe do some research of your own and let me know what you find out. But, guys, I'm going to end this one here. We're going to close the archives tonight. And we'll move forward as we get ready for the Christmas holiday. The next podcast will be January 2nd. No, sorry. January 3rd. That's 2 Saturdays from tonight. That'll be the next episode. So hope you guys will look forward to that. Hope you guys have an amazing Christmas and New Year's. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.